advise all attendees that tonight's board meeting is being recorded. Persons wishing to address the board on any agenda or non-agendized item must fill out a speaker card, and you can do so. The directions are on the agenda item, but it's velmasilva@sylvan.k12.ca.us. So you can do that in the next few minutes. I'd like to report out a closed session. That direction was given to staff regarding all matters. And I'm looking for a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Harvey.
Second.
Second by Mr. Raw. Roll call, please.
I think that was Ms. Talcott that made the motion, correct?
She raised her hand, but Ms. Harvey spoke up. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Miyakawa,
Aye.
Board Member Ross,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you. Motion carries 5-0. Let's go ahead with our Pledge of Allegiance. All those please rise. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, let's go ahead with the communications portion of our agenda. Looking for any written communications, Mr. Frederickson.
Yes, the board did receive a written communication from the Stanislaus County Office of Education, and it was just a verification of the first interim report for the fiscal year 2021. And again, one of the key things that they wanted to point out, they review our budget and our interim finding for each of those reports, and they concur with the district's positive certification. And so again, they gave a couple of recommendations within that. I think Ms. Aguilar has been very good about keeping the board up to date on that first interim budget. But again, just making sure we look at our ending fund balances each year, being aware of that. Also keeping a close look at your multi-year projections and your reserves. And so, you know, the standard requirement is 3%. And for 2021, we have a 12.66%. But again, they forecast that out for the next 3 years. And that reserve, based upon the first interim, does continue to decline over the 3 years. So again, I think that aligns with the work that we've been doing in our budget study sessions, and a lot of the work we'll be doing over the next several months. Again, just also keeping us aware of enrollment projections. And we do have, you know, a slight decrease in enrollment each year, besides the one little bubble we had a couple of years ago. So we need to keep, that has a significant impact on your funding with enrollment. And again, that really, it was a good report, just verifying the work that the board has done and Mrs. Aguilar's work.
Great, thank you. Yes, thank you to staff for the work that goes behind those reports. Thank you. Okay, the next session is public participation, and I feel to just extend a welcome to all those who are joining us tonight. This is not our favorite way to meet virtually, but it does allow more people to participate, especially now. And so we just want to welcome you to our meeting, all those who are attending virtually tonight. Public participation is next on the agenda. And Velma, have we received any notifications from the public?
So we received 3. I asked the assistant soups to each read one, and then I'll read the one that we just received.
Very good. Okay. No, doesn't matter which order you go in.
I believe I'm going first. So thank you. So on behalf of Joni Greep, parent from Savage and Marianne Sanders, the following statement is submitted for public comment. First, thank you for your constant work on behalf of our students. Thank you for being a board that embodies integrity and diligence. Unlike the recent negative media attention involving other school districts in our state, please know that your community supports and appreciates you all. Members of the board, please address our concerns for our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders who have spent an entire year behind a screen. Why can't our children go back to school like so many other middle school students? We recognize that the answer to that simple question is multifaceted and complex, but the question deserves to be publicly addressed. We've been told this because public health won't allow it. We've been told our county must meet the red tier requirements. What if we never get to the red tier? What then? We've been told that the state guidelines make it nearly impossible for middle schools. They can't be cohorted. Their schedules are complicated. There is too much movement and not enough room on campuses. How can you explain how other public middle schools, high schools in our state are navigating these guidelines with apparent ease? How have the private schools, K-12, across the state navigated these guidelines all year? We've been told if our district doesn't comply with public health and follow the strict guidelines, then we'll risk losing our funding or be shut down. Is that true? If every public school district across the state is receiving ADA funding this year, regardless of attendance due to the pandemic, how would it be lost? Would we really be shut down? By whom? Public health? The governor. Isn't a guideline a general rule, principle, or piece of advice? By very definition, a guideline is not enforceable by law. The excuse that the guidelines are too strict for our middle schools to open is unacceptable. We've been told not to compare our district to other districts, but we are not comparing apples to oranges here. Our students deserve to be afforded the same fundamental development by a complete educational experience as any other student in any other district. We are asking for your support on behalf of our students. We are asking that you support the sit-out protest this Friday on behalf of every 6th, 7th, and 8th grader that has given up hope. It is very simple. Do you support students learning in the classroom? Will you do everything in your power to get them back sooner? Or do you want them to remain at home? In the words of my 12-year-old, quote, "I can't do this again next year," end quote. Will you support him? Who will be brave and stand up for these students? Board members, you are supposed to be the voice for our children. Please support them now so that we can continue to support you in the future. That is the end of the public comment that was submitted.
Thank you. Thank you to the groups who submitted that. I believe will be next on our agenda. So hopefully some if not all those concerns and questions will be answered and invite further communication if that's necessary. Thank you for reading that, Dee Dee. Okay, who's up next?
Be
Okay,
reading the second one. On behalf of Mr. John Zambo, educator at USTAC Middle School and SEA grievance chair. I'm writing to voice my concern about the return to in-person learning for students in the Sylvan District. Although I am excited about getting my students back in my room, my concern comes from hearing how important in-person learning is for students, but not hearing how it will affect their teachers. I have also heard it expressed that there's nothing for teachers to worry about. Even with a nationwide lockdown, travel restrictions, and constant reminders about safety measures, we are still dealing with COVID-19 a year after it first showed up. It is deadly, highly infectious, airborne, and is mutating rapidly. We are still discovering the long-term consequences experienced by those who survive infection. It is not reasonable to suggest there's no danger of infection having students resume in-person learning. First, for those of you who do not know me, I was hired by the Sylvan School District in the summer of 1994. I have been a dedicated, passionate teacher in this district for the past 27 years. I've spent almost my entire adult life working to educate the children of this community. It is my life's work and I look forward to continuing for years to come. I take my role and responsibility very seriously. However, I also hold the management of the district responsible for my well-being. The idea that my health would not be at an increased danger having students in my room during a pandemic goes against common sense. Any teacher is able to describe having dozens of students coughing and sneezing through class one day who are then absent the next because they are sick. This happens every flu season. I have been diligent through my career in an attempt to avoid getting sick. In spite of this, my health has certainly been adversely affected during my time as a teacher. At the start of my career, during my student teaching assignment, I was infected by the chickenpox. A student in my room had a case and had come to school without knowing they were infectious. Sometime later, I was exposed to tuberculosis, undoubtedly from another student. However, now I need to get a chest x-ray every 4 years to get a TB clearance in order to continue teaching. A few months ago, I came down with shingles. This is the chickenpox virus again, which never leaves your system after you have been infected. It just waits to reappear, this time attacking the nerves. If you haven't had the shingles vaccine yet, I would recommend it. Shingles involves a stunning amount of pain all day, every day for at least 4 weeks straight. My concern isn't just for myself and my health. I have others that I care about and have a responsibility for. If I were to have students back in my room before I have a vaccine, it would be irresponsible of me to allow any of my friends or family to share that exposure. I would not be able to continue to spend time with a small bubble I have had for the past year. I would not be able to see my mother, who is 76, as it would be an unreasonable risk to her life. I would have to limit my exposure even to my wife and son for fear increasing the risk to their own health. I know that I am not alone with my concern. I have coworkers who are high risk. Some are recovering from cancer, while others have different conditions that would make coming down with a COVID-19 infection very dangerous. Still more are caring for family, like elderly parents, who are also high risk. As teachers, we should not have to risk our lives or that of our loved ones in order to do our jobs. It is also unacceptable to force teachers into seclusion to avoid spreading what we are bringing home from our classrooms. I have heard that anecdotal evidence seems to indicate that schools are not responsible for many COVID-19 infections. I'm curious if this statement is true of all grades, small school and large elementary classes, where no more than 30 students might be, or a middle school environment where a teacher may have more than 160 student contacts. My sister's private school experience with 9 students is undoubtedly different than mine when my largest class is 37. In the Sylvan District, a small number of grades have resumed in-person learning. Even with significant precautions, there have been a large number of COVID cases and classes shut down. This district has not been able to find enough substitutes to replace the teachers who had to quarantine. How will the Sylvan District respond to having even more classes shut down with even more teachers on quarantine? As a teacher, I take my job very seriously. I always have. One small silver lining to come out of the situation might be that many others now agree how vital and valuable my job is. I hope they remember that going forward. There's nothing wrong with wanting to bring our students back. I definitely want that too. However, you also have a responsibility to the health and safety of your employees. While we all may put students at the top of our list, that list should also include the staff of our schools. As we develop a plan to bring students back, that plan should take into consideration all groups, not just how important in-person learning is to students. In my opinion, it is not reasonable to bring teachers and students back before vaccines are made available. The plan should be that we are ready for in-person learning only when our staff has the opportunity to be vaccinated. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Aguilar. Thank you, Mr. Zambo, for writing in. And I will wait and hear what Mr. Frederickson reports as far as response to that. And the last one,
The
is
last
that
one
Velma?
I will read. It's from Avery Alves, a student. She writes, distance learning has been extremely difficult to adjust to in many ways. First, each period has been cut in almost half, and we only have each period 2 times a week, which makes it very difficult to grasp onto the subject and fully understand it. Second, almost all of my friends are from school, which meant I would see them every day. Now I have seen them not even once, and we aren't even as close as we used to be because we haven't seen each other in about a year or so now, and all of my socialization is gone due to this. I also lost the chance to make new friends this year because everyone has their camera off, which I can't blame them for doing, and I don't even know what more than half of my classmates even look like. Everyone is tired of having to try and keep up with what we are trying to learn and not seeing our friends, which we used to see every day.
Thank you, Avery, for writing in. You know, it's really interesting that tonight we got the perspective from every stakeholder, right? We got a student perspective, we got a teacher, and we got a parent, just exemplifying how complex this issue is. And and how every single one of their points was valid, which just makes this process that much harder. I can only assure you that that's, all hands on deck, all brains are in this, every effort is being made to make the best choice for our students and our staff and our families. So I hope that gives you some consolation that, some of the best brains in the district are working through this as best we can. With that, I'll turn the time over to Mr. Frederickson for his superintendent update, which should address some of this.
Thank you for that lead in, Board President Miyakawa, because I was thinking the same thing. I mean, you would think that was almost staged that we had those 3 letters, because that really does show where we are in our community, in our nation, in our state. And this is just a gut-wrenching process. It really is. Hearing from that student, that's why we're here, and see the impact on our kids. We acknowledge that and we understand. But then you hear the other perspectives of what it's like for parents wanting their children to be back in school. But then you hear the side of employees, the fears that they worry about. It's not a lack of love of children. It is, can I safely come to work? So that's what makes this so challenging. And I know I get a lot of other communications. I've had numerous emails with the same things shared. And so, my goal in a presentation tonight, it's not going to satisfy everybody. It's not. I can say that right now. It seems like anything I do, someone will not be happy about it. Okay, and that's just the world we live in. And what our goal is, and the recommendations I make to the school board is for them to be able to have the best information they can, so that they can make decisions. And so that's what my goal is tonight. But the media, I mean, the last month, and especially the last 2 weeks, we have just been bombarded about school reopening and all the different sides of the story. And it frames different mindsets and how it impacts each individual district. A lot of comparisons going on. People comparing their neighboring schools, comparing the schools in Southern California to private schools. I mean, it's all over the place right now. So hopefully I can provide some clarification of what we're doing here in the Sylvan Union School District. That's my main goal. But I do want to just take time before I get into that, because we get so focused on the issue and intense about it. Sometimes we don't take time to stop and acknowledge the work that people are doing. And my first group is our parent community. Being new to the community, I just see so many parents, even when they don't agree with the decisions, they love their kids and for the most part respectful in their responses, and they just want their children to come back to school. And so I get that. Even comments like, I want school to open so that I don't have to look at my child going to a private school. They love the district, but it just kind of puts in perspective some of the concerns they feel about that. So I just want to acknowledge the support of this and patience of the parents. Next is just our staff. I've been so impressed with our classified, certificated, administrative staff. Just what it takes to work in a pandemic, to run a distance learning program, and for those that are teaching in-person learning, that's a whole shift in the way you work. And they have embraced it. And I know some people feel like we haven't done enough, but right now I just want to acknowledge those that have, and that's a lot of people. And so that's an important acknowledgement that I want to do. And next is just our school board. I know it's got to be challenging to sit here and hear all these concerns. And for years, and for whether you've been on the board for years or you're new to the board, you're here because you want to do what's best for children. And it's not easy, but I can tell you my experience with this board so far is they care. They really do about this district. And my goal is to provide them, again, the information where they can make that decision. And then last, before I jump into my presentation, I just want to acknowledge the other school districts in our county and some of our surrounding counties. The work that these districts have done to bring kids back. When you look at the news and you look at what's out here in California, where 2/3 of the student population has not attended any in-person learning, 2/3. But if you look here in our community and some of the surrounding communities, they've been bringing children back as we have. So sometimes we look at our basket, it's not all full like you want, but the efforts it's taken to get where we are in this county and those schools that have braved that and moved forward. I just think we just need to acknowledge that. And, you know, whether you're comparing one district to another, everybody's working hard doing what they feel is right for the district. And so I just want to set that stage as I go into this. And hopefully I can provide some data, some explanations. I have no excuses. Please understand that. People sometimes when they don't hear what they want, they say it's an excuse. This is not an excuse. This is the work we are doing and what we feel is right and the recommendations we can make for the board. So I just want to get that clear from the very beginning. Okay, can we go to the next slide? Okay, I want to give a status of where we are with reopening. We look at our TK3 and the percentages I show here are the percent of in-person and distance learning for the upcoming third trimester, which is the 1st of March. We have 66% of our families that have chosen to enroll their families in in-person learning, where we have 34% for distance learning. Pretty similar to what we've had since November. So with this program, we started it back in November. Our model has been 5 days per week, full day schedule from the very get-go. We've offered a separate in-person learning and a distance learning option for those students. You know, and before I go into the 4-5, I just want to, you know, again, as we look at other districts, the TK3 we set the standard in our community. Very few districts were able to offer what we did. We put a lot of investment, time, and resources into being able to offer that. And again, just know as I start to talk about 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, we have the same desire and same goals to do the best for these students as well as we did with our TK3. But you will see there are some different dynamics why we may offer a different type of program for students in 4 through 8. Okay, so just know we set the standard at the beginning, and even though it may not be 5 days a week, full day for the other students at this time, it doesn't mean we didn't put the same amount of care and effort into that. So for grades 4 and 5, for the third trimester, we have 55% of our families choosing to be in person, and 45% will be doing distance learning. So you're looking at about close to a 50-50 split there. And we'll be starting that on March 1st, and it's a hybrid model. And it's a separate in-person and distance learning option. So our cohorts A and B, cohort A is in person Monday and Tuesday for a full day, and cohort B is in person Thursday and Friday. And then I appreciate the work that we did with our staff. And I want to acknowledge it's not easy in some districts to come to an agreement on what delivery model you want to be as you work with your employees. Our employee groups have been incredible. They have been flexible. They have seen the need that we've had to have some tough conversations. But again, we're not like some of the things you read in the news where we're at heads with our labor. Our labor groups have been very cooperative and care about the kids as well. And so, you know, in this model, we had to shift some of the learning model where the teachers actually taught concurrently. We still had a specific distance learning separate teacher, but they're teaching concurrently. That means when group A is there on Monday and Tuesday, the students in B are going to be joining that group virtually. Again, that required teachers to have to shift and do a different learning model. They're teaching kids in front of them and they're teaching kids on a screen. So that took a lot of coordination, equipment, technology to make that work, and working with our employees to support that different change in teaching. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, I want to talk about some reopening considerations, things that we base this on, because if not, you're kind of swayed by the loudest voice and the pressure you get. So for the board to be able to make the quality decisions, they have to look at what are some of the key things we're looking at that guides us for our reopening. And you have to have something solid to lean on. And we are leaning on the January 14th CDPH guidance and consultation with our local public health officer. We realize that CDC just recently came out with some new guidance, and that was from the federal level. It is recommendations, but the enforced guidance that we are to follow in the state comes from CDPH. And that doesn't mean CDC guidelines didn't have some merit, but that is not what we're focused on. We're going to be focusing on the January 14th CDPH guidance. And significant things you look at is, can you social distance? This is key. And there is no wavering on this. It is 4 to 6 feet minimum. Earlier in the year, there was a little more flexibility where we could go down to 3 feet. But that is no longer a standard. The standard is now 4 feet. So those are considerations we take as we decide what model we're doing. The next is stable cohorts. And what they're talking about with that is the number of students that are permitted to mix. And, you know, when we brought back our K3, those programs have worked so carefully not to mix those kids from other classes. As one of the people mentioned in their comment about having to close some classrooms, you know, if a positive case happens and public health has us close that cohort of kids. So the smaller the cohort, the fewer number of students and staff who have to go be quarantined. So that is a key consideration. Now, there's also a bunch of other safety guidelines and things that we follow, but these are two of the key standards that help determine what model you do. The other consideration is, what is the district's capacity and resources to offer specific reopening? And this is where you see such differences between different districts. Every district has different resources at hand and choices of where they put their resources. You're looking at available personnel. Again, when we created the TK3 model, we hired 15 new teachers. We were fortunate to find them at that time. I know our HR department worked very hard to find those 15 teachers. That was the only way that we were able to offer keeping classes under 20 in person and have a separate distance learning model. You got to have adequate space to comply with social distancing. Not only that in the classroom, but when you eat lunch. And so you got to look at the big picture of, how am I going to have adequate space to social distance on my entire campus for the day? That's another key factor we look at. And of course, technology. That, in order to do any kind of concurrent teaching or distance learning models, you've got to have available technology, and you've got to trust that fact when you order it, that it's actually going to arrive on time. And so sometimes people say, well, you have no excuse that you didn't start at this point. Well, we have a reason if the technology has not arrived and is out of our control. That is a factor that makes a difference in your decisions on how you open. And then of course, your bargaining unit agreements. You know, we have employees, we work together, we have to follow that agreement. And we have a very good relationship, but it takes time to have those crucial conversations. And we're in constant communication all the time as this guidance changed. I mean, I'll talk a little bit more as we look at our upcoming models, the amount of work that takes. Okay, next slide. Okay, also, I referred to the CDPH guidance, and I think it's important for people to understand the language here. And it's filled with much more language than this, but this is key in how we make our decisions. So the districts is permitted to continue with reopening our TK plan for grades 4 and 5 after being temporarily put on hold by public health officer in December due to the significant increase in the COVID rates. Again, part of our TK6 waiver, we had our 4-5 plan moving forward, and December it was put on hold. And for good reason. The rates of COVID were significant. And at this point, because things are declining, the public health officer allowed us to continue our reopening for 4 and 5. Remember, grade 6 is at a separate school. It is at a middle school. And the guidance indicates that if you had not started reopening at a specific school site, you could not reopen at that site until it was under 25 per 100,000. So that was one of the reasons we were delayed on, instead of doing 4, 5, and 6 return, we did 4 and 5. So grades K6, which would apply to our 6th grade, case rates would have to be 25 per 100,000 per day for at least 5 consecutive days before grade 6 would be permitted to return. And again, we're getting very close, if not, well, I believe we're heading below 25, but we'll have to look at that, but it has to be for 5 consecutive days. So again, we were not eligible and still are not currently eligible to bring 6th grade back. If you're looking at the guidance, which our district, that's our recommendation, that's what we follow. Now, grades 7 through 12, many not reopened if, may not reopen if the county is in the purple tier. And once the county is in the red tier, it's 7 per 100,000, and you have to be in that tier for 5 consecutive days before schools reopen. So that is very clear about when you are eligible to open any 7-12. Now, people are, well, I know there were some junior highs open. I know there were some high schools open. I see them. Well, let's talk about the next slide. Comparing Sylvan to other school districts. Okay, this is not going to answer all of those comparisons, but I think people just need to understand the dynamics of why there are different things going on at different districts. So districts that chose to open their programs under the TK6 waiver back in November were permitted to reopen. So you'll look at maybe a surrounding school district that has their K6 at one school site. That's their elementary. They chose to open with a hybrid model. That means they were only coming a couple of days a week. They started with the TK6 waiver back in November. We chose to open with our TK3. Well, I'll get to that. So I just wanted you to understand the TK waiver, and they were permitted to stay open if they were already attending. Districts that opened their schools to TK8 or TK12 when the county was temporarily in the red tier were permitted to remain open. So you're looking at, hey, I see high schoolers over there, or I see middle schoolers over at that site. Why are they open and you're not? That they found that small little window when we were in red. They opened to those programs. They got to remain open. That's why they have those kids there. A lot of your private schools jumped on that. And so that's why those students are there, because they jumped in during the red tier. Now, during the November window, based on the TK6 waiver, Sylvan implemented a robust program in TK3. So I've talked about that already. And we did a phased-in approach with grades 4 through 6 with the intent of opening 7, 8 based on being in the red tier. So again, we put a lot of effort and time into creating the full day programs for our TK3. Next plan was to bring back 4, 5, which we had designated, got put on hold, and now we're bringing them back on the 1st. And I've already explained the 6th grade situation. And the 7, 8 is based right along with what the guidelines are for CDPH. So when we're in the red tier, we will be eligible to bring our 7th and 8th graders back. So in December, due to the significant increase in COVID rates, the county went back into deep purple and 4-6 was placed on hold. I've already covered that. Next slide. Continuing with that. So the January 14th CDPH guidance established new criteria. So for reopening, and I talked about this already, even if a school previously received a waiver, if it had not yet reopened, the county case rate and the county case rate exceeded the 25 per 100,000, the school must delay reopening until the county case rates drop below that threshold. That's language straight out of CDPH. And since Sylvan 6th grade students are part of the middle school model of that site, and were not part of the K-5 schools that had already implemented reopening, they would be held to the 25 per 100,000 requirement. So I believe I covered that all already as well. Next slide. Okay, I had to give you background and just so you can see what the big picture is as we move forward with this. Where we are with grades 6 and 8, 6 through 8. We are meeting with our task force. We've been meeting with them, looking at schedules. So we're looking at the schedules. And again, they have to align to the CDPH guidelines. And again, this work is much more challenging than TK5 schedules. You're dealing with electives, you're dealing with honors classes, you're dealing with kids rotating to 7 different periods. And you're looking at how can you create a model where you have stable cohorts. And it is a great deal of work, and we're making progress. It may require a different learning model platform. We're still working through that, trying to figure that out. Again, it's not dragging our heels. It's not making excuses. It is a great deal of work that we want to do a good job with. I feel positive that we're making headway. And we don't want to change our master schedule. I mean, that is a significant thing. We looked at that. There's a lot of ramifications if you change a middle school's master schedule. If we just wanted to put them in a self-contained classroom and say, hey, all you 7th graders, you go there with that one teacher all day, it would be a different story. But that's not realistic and what's quality for kids. So we want to provide a quality option for our children. So we're looking at that, and then we are meeting with our bargaining unit to negotiate the effects of the proposed schedules. Again, it's a more unique type of schedule and delivery model. So if it changes the roles that teachers do, if it requires more different teaching styles, using more technology, doing all 3 groups at one time, all that has to be negotiated. And we are meeting soon with that. So, that's the update. I feel like we're making progress, and we're lined up following those guidelines. And we want to get our kids back in school, in person, as soon as possible. So any questions from the board regarding that?
Looking for questions. Any clarifying questions from the board?
Yes, me.
Is that Cindy? Sorry, I only see a few of you at a
Yes.
time.
Yes.
Go ahead, Ms. Lindsay.
Yes, Mr. Frederickson. One of the things that I noted in your presentation and also in the comments from one of the correspondence we had today is the word guidance. And I think that there's a miscommunication there. Guidance for school boards is not, oh, here's a suggestion, do it. If I'm correct, I'm asking you, my understanding that guidance is a law. We have to follow that rule, and there's not any wavering from it. So could you clarify that a little bit for the community so that they know that we're following the law, not just somebody's suggestions?
Yeah, and CDPH is the agency responsible in our state for setting the guidelines. And in fact, in the reopening document that they provided, they say their guidance supersedes any local public health requirements. They made it very clear. Prior to that, they were giving more discretion to local public health. But in this new document, it was clearly stated that they are really the last word on what those requirements are.
Okay, and the other thing I would like to comment on is that I wanted to take this quick moment to just thank all the parents and teachers that have been so supportive of the Sylvan District and the board. You have made this process a bearable one. We've all suffered with you, and we all feel what you're feeling. We have grandchildren, children in Sylvan, and we understand exactly how you feel. But I do want to throw out there to especially teachers and that have worked so incredibly hard to bridge these gaps that they've had to make, teaching in class and distance learning and all the things that they're having to bridge. And to the parents that have supported us, thank you, parents, that the wonderful letters that we get from supportive parents that are saying they understand and they appreciate all the hard work. It's a thankless job sometimes. And I want to tell the community that as a whole, I'm very, very honored to serve for you and have worked with this staff, this administration that has worked so incredibly hard to make this happen. And thank you, Mr. Ferguson.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Lindsay. Ms. Harvey?
Hi, thank you so much. You guys hear me okay? Yeah, okay, thank you. I got
Yeah.
a new headset, see, it's my space.
Good job.
So I want to just kind of summarize. So we have the state, the federal, they kind of had these ideas, but then they said the state gets to figure it out. And then the state said, well, the communities get to figure it out. And then the community started figuring out, and then this other entity came in and said, well, really, we have this idea. And that was the
PH.
CDPH, right? And then you have another entity coming in. They're kind of saying, yeah, but we're going to change a couple things too. And then we have human beings. And even though we know we're supposed to wear masks and social distance, the holidays came up, and we're humans, and we needed to be with people, and maybe we didn't do it the best way, and so we had a spike. And if you're working in a hospital, or if you have family members, it's just awful. And then you have these human beings called children and these amazing things. And during this whole time, they're just doing their best. They're not falling behind. They're just dealing with a pandemic. And then you have these parents who are just like, I love my babies so much, even though they're 10 or 15 or 20 or 2, and I would just want what's best for them. And then you have these teachers who says, gosh, I love these children so much, but I don't want to die doing my job. And then you have the vaccine that's coming out, but now it was delayed because of the ice storm. And you're like, oh my gosh. But teachers are getting vaccinated, and the technology is working, and we have great counselors, and you guys have done an amazing job. And, focusing on the K-3, I think, is phenomenal, because we know that is where so much cognitive development happens. And so we know that the kids in our community have that opportunity. 5 days, unlike anything else, 5 days, regular, during a pandemic. And that's phenomenal. And then we have the other kids that we're working to help make their life that much more normal. We're here because we care so desperately for kids, and we want them to be successful. And I want to thank the board. I want to thank the families. I want to thank the community. But I also want to thank the kids. That letter from the young person, I don't want to discount the 2 adults. Again, they got me too. But that letter from the child, I mean, as a teacher, when you're teaching, and I teach 190 kids a day, when you're teaching kids and you see their faces, you get it. You get it every day. You get stabbed in that heart because they are broken hearted, but they're trying and they're resilient. Just at that little pathfinder, right? The little perseverance, it just keeps going. So thank you. We will find a way to make sure that all of our students are going to move forward in a way that is best for the community, for them. And I really want to thank, I just want to thank the community. Thank you. This isn't easy. And there's so many, yeah. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Was there anything else from any other board member? We did have one other letter that we thought was just meant for the superintendent for questions, but they did want it read publicly. So I'll have Velma read that now, please.
Okay, this comes from Gina Alves, who is a parent in the district. I have a few concerns that I would like to be addressed at the board meeting tonight. One, what is the date to reopen middle schools? We simply cannot continue to keep our children out of the classroom. We need leaders who will stand up for our children and let them know they are the priority. I have seen dates as early as March 15th from MCS and Riverbank, so I'm certainly expecting the same timeframe for our students. Two, why is it that in March, our 4th and 5th graders are just beginning a hybrid plan when Modesto City is bringing up K through 6 back 5 days a week? We are all a part of the same community. How is Sylvan so far behind? What is going to take to be 5 days a week? The CDC is recommending all schools reopen. If that is who we are taking guidelines from, then what are we waiting for? My 8th grader is in honors classes and is completely losing hope because it is nearly impossible to actually learn while only having classes twice a week. She has gone from straight A student to accepting low Bs because she feels defeated. We need a plan of action. I will not continue to keep my 8th grade student online. I will hope her district will support her. Otherwise, I will be choosing another path for all of my children. Please don't give the excuses that we're waiting for approval. We need to know what the plan of action is that you are taking. Thank you, Gina Alves.
Thank you, Velma, for reading that. So Mr. Frederickson, I guess my question is, this was meant as a superintendent update. It's not an action item. This is something that we still are meeting with to finish up the plans and with our staff and coming up with firming up those dates a little bit. So will this be coming back to us on March 9th? I mean, what can you give us as far as when we'll know more about decision making? You're on mute.
Thank you. A lot of that depends on how our conversations go with our employee groups, if we can move forward with our schedule that we want to do, or is it feasible? If we may have to go back to the drawing board, a lot of it will depend on our conversations. So again, one, our goal would be when we start to hit red, we certainly want to get our kids back as soon, 7-8, as soon as we can, but we don't want to do it before we have everything in order, okay? So that's the danger with dates. Somehow this March 15th date got thrown out there in the media a week or so ago with nothing in writing about it. It was a conversation about the 15th. It was a projection that maybe by March 15th, it would be there. So I don't want to throw dates out. If they're eligible and we've been able to do the work we need to do, that everybody's on board, we'll have to send out surveys to parents, because again, we'll be offering distance learning and in-person learning. So we have to send out surveys, we have to restaff. It is not just like turn the switch and all the kids show up for school. So I don't want to give any false pretense about that. We make this a priority. We work on it every day. And when we feel it's safe and, hopefully by March 9th, I can give the board an update about some good progress in that area.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I think Ms. Harvey did a really good job of summing up, you know, the fact that there's a lot of there's just a lot of pieces to this puzzle, and a lot of us, you know, are especially those who spoke tonight are speaking, you know, either out of you know, the personal pain of what this is costing our kids, and you know, and just like she said, just kind of that losing hope, and as well as the fear of you know, this virus is evolving. And so I hope, if nothing else, that you, those who are attending tonight and those who have written in, have felt that, you know, this is an all hands on deck, and we really are, and it has always been a priority in this district, to give the best quality education we can, and as soon as we can, to get the kids back in. So I know as we were sitting here listening, I got an update. My kids aren't in Sylvan anymore. My last one is in Modesto City, and the same thing's playing out for me. So just know that we're very aware of what this is costing our kids, and trying to do the best we can. And we'll just keep the conversation going and keep pushing forward. So we'll just leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Frederickson. Appreciate the update. Let's go ahead now just with our annual review. This is a standard review of our extracurricular activities. Ms. Granger, I don't know if you need to say anything about this.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Mrs. Nia Cowett. Yes, Ed Code requires an annual review of this board policy and administrative regulations on 6145, which is extracurricular and co-curricular activities. There is no proposed language change to this policy, but just as a reminder, both the board policy and the AR outline the purpose of extracurricular activities, as well as student eligibility, participation, supervision of those activities, and that unless there is a specific authorization that these students' participation is free of charge. So I'm happy to entertain any questions, but this is a standard formal review.
Thank you, Mrs. Granger. Looking for any questions from the board? If not, oh, this is just the information, right? Okay. So if there's none, then we'll just go ahead and move on. Thank you. Next will be our safety and facilities update with Mrs. Aguilar.
Yes,
And
thank
Mr.
you.
Frederickson. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. I'll be providing a brief update on UStack, our middle school modernization project. As you know, we've been working to finish up a few remaining items on that project. And we had a meeting yesterday, which was, I believe, a very productive meeting. It was a joint meeting with SKW, our architects, Boyer, the general contractor, and our board facilities subcommittee to go through those remaining items. And the three main areas that we focused on was the change order number 8 adjustments, lockers, and concrete. And so I'll give you a brief update on each of those. On the change order number 8 adjustments, if you recall, at the end of that change order, there was about $31,000 of adjustments. And that was going to be an adjustment that was going to be coming from SKW to Boyer that we discussed. And in looking at just contractual obligations and analyzing that, we agreed that the contractual obligation is from the district to Boyer, and then from the district with the architect. And so what we'll be doing is having, what we have done actually is having the architect SKW remit that $31,000 to the district, and the district is going to turn around and remit that to Boyer to satisfy our contractual obligation, which is with Boyer. And so we actually received that payment from SKW, the architect, today, and we'll be turning around and issuing payment on that to Boyer. So that will close out that item. The next item, and we've been talking quite a bit about, as you know, and you've seen some Friday updates, is lockers. and looking at options for lockers. And so we are looking at a locker option replacement to go and replace what we currently have as a 12 by 12 by 12 locker with a 12 by 12 by 24 high locker, so double the height. And we are getting some pricing options on that to bring before the board for consideration. Okay. And then the third one is the concrete. We've been talking about some cracking, spalling, and crumbling that we have had with the concrete there. And so we've had a last week and just this morning gone out and walked and mapped out and marked where the repairs need to be made, and have also had really good conversation, I believe, with Boyer on their willingness to make these repairs to the concrete, not only the ones that are evident now, and also, you know, continuing this throughout the next year of the warranty for the concrete. And they've shared as their standard practice to come back and analyze and make sure that, you know, there hasn't been additional damage that they can come back and repair within that time frame. So they have already started with some of those repairs. I can share some as they continue and try to update some pictures I have of the before and after the repairs. And with that, they've asked us, because they're moving swiftly as we asked them to move swiftly on making those repairs, they've asked us to, that 10% that we were holding in consideration of waiting for them to make those repairs, asked us to process that, which I want to point out is in the list of the consent agenda checks that are included for your approval, to go ahead and have the, we can have the board approve that, and then just hold it pending the completion of those repairs, so that they wouldn't necessarily have to wait until the next board meeting, but it would be ready. As we discussed, that's more of a warranty, and they had viewed it as a warranty versus necessarily a punch list item. But, you know, in our discussions, they've given us full, you know, affirmation that they're out there already fixing them and will continue to do so. So, and then the last item that we briefly discussed was just with the closeout process and making sure that we work on that and get that expedited. And that's a closeout process, I'm sorry, with DSA to close out the project with the state. And there's a certain process that we have to go through for that. We want to make sure that it goes through that. And we actually started the process on that after the meeting. I received the initial paperwork to submit the forms that go to DSA. We've submitted that today. There's a couple other forms that get submitted by the lab that are expected to be completed tomorrow. That goes to DSA. DSA then generates an invoice based on the complete cost of the project that we pay. And then once we pay that, then they go and close and certify the project as complete. So we've initiated that process, and yeah, and that's pretty much all the main items and where we're at in terms of the project. Any questions?
Thank you, Mrs. Aguilar. So did we decide to go ahead and submit the DSA paperwork without having finished the lockers, and we were going to do the locker submission after that? I thought we were waiting for the lockers to be finished.
So the lockers is not, does not hold up that process because the lockers are complete.
Oh,
We are
right.
looking at the option of replacing them.
Got it.
The ones that were per plan and per everything are complete.
That's right. I forgot that. Thank you.
That's okay.
Any other questions, Mrs. Lindsay?
Yes, Lizette, if I recall in our last conversation at the last meeting, one of the reasons for holding that 10% was to ensure that work that could happen in the next year would occur. What have you gotten, like a written something from them that would verify that they would repair these breaks, or is that specifically stated in the warranty of the concrete?
It is in the warranty, and the 10% wasn't necessarily for that whole 1 year, it was for the repairs that need to take place now, which they're working on, and we wouldn't release it to them until those repairs are done. I would be holding that until I know that all of those repairs are done. However, we don't necessarily have to wait for a board meeting to go through that process.
Okay, then I'm just going to throw out something here. If something should happen to the concrete down the road, I'd say 6 months from now, will we have to go out to bid again to have that repaired? Even though it's in warranty, we would still have to pay for nothing. We don't have to pay for anything.
So if it's warranted for the year, we would ask them to come out, look at it, make the repairs. And, all of our conversations, and I see Mr. Rowe nodding his head, so all of our conversations have, indicated that, aside from it being a warranty that we do have, in writing, is that they're more than willing to come out and do that, and have shown that in all of their work that they're already doing.
Okay, I guess I just think it's prudent to, and I appreciate, the fact that we have a good working relationship with them, but I as overseers of our finances, I just would like to know, are they, something that states, do we have to pay labor and, or supplies, anything? You're shaking your head no, but I don't know. I've never known of anything that you didn't have, even if it had a warranty on it, that you didn't have to pay, the labor on it. And so that's my question is, if it should break, under the warranty, the concrete warranty is that it will hold, but the labor to redo it, are we going to have to go out, do that, and then have to go out to bid for that?
Mrs. Lindsay, the answer to that is no. We withheld the 10% in order for them to come back and correct the concrete anomalies, defects, whatever terminology you want to use. We ask that they do all of those repairs prior to releasing this 10%. Once all of those are done, Lizette will verify with herself and staff that all the repairs have been done and then release the check. We have 12 months from the conclusion of their concrete, 12 months from the time that the project is complete. I don't know what date that is, Lizette, but we should confirm that with the contractor. Is that the date DSA closes, the date that we sign off, the date that we send them the final check? What determines that final date? Then we need to have an alarm on our phone about, 30 days prior to that, 11 months from now, that we're going to go and walk that project from top to bottom and not only look at concrete, but everything, doors, bathrooms, tile, you name it, and see if everything is still the way it was the day that we finished the job. Those items all fall under construction warranty. We don't pay any material. We don't pay any labor costs. They are required to come back and fix those at their expense. The only thing we pay extra for is if we add something over and above the original contract. But all these things would be repairs. So it would be wise of us to determine what the finish date is so that we can look 11 months from that date at all the work on the site to get any final warranty work done prior to that 12-month expiration date.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rowe.
Welcome.
We'll do that.
Okay, any other questions by board members? Wonderful. All right, thank you very much, Lizette.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead with our action items then. We're on 10A, approve the memorandum of understanding with SUSD and CSEA for COVID leave.
Yes, thank you. So the emergency paid sick leave that was provided from Families First Coronavirus Response Act expired in December 31st of 2020. And we are offering COVID leave up to 10 days for employees who have a need to be off of work as directed by human resources, public health, or a medical provider, and bring this memorandum of understanding between the district and CSEA, Chapter 73, for the board approval.
Thank you, Dee Dee. Are there any questions regarding this memorandum? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So moved. Oh,
Moved by Mrs. Talcott, seconded by Mrs. Lindsay.
Either
Yes?
way, it's fine.
Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey,
aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Raw,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item
Thank you.
is approval of the proposal for the campus suite. Marty.
Sorry, it's not working.
Hello.
Sorry, I had to mute the other computer so you wouldn't. realize. I apologize.
So much
bringing-
fun.
Yeah, thank you. I'm bringing for your approval tonight a proposal with Campus Suite for a district website and site website so that we can be in compliance with ADA and ensure that we also have a good way for parent engagement at each one of our school sites.
Thank you, Marty. Any questions on this item? Seeing none, looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
I need to see hands because it's hard for me to.
So
Okay.
moved.
Okay, I'll take Mrs. Lindsay as made the motion and Mrs. Talcott as our second. Thank you. Roll call.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board Member Raw,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Marty. Okay, the next item up for, I was set up for bid like this is an auction. It's an action item is CSBA Delegate Assembly election. How do you like that, Mrs. Lindsay? I just put you up for auction.
Yes, that's okay.
Okay,
I don't know
Mr.
if I get
Frederick,
many, I don't think I get many bids.
Mr. Frederickson, you want to just introduce this? Oh, we got you on mute.
This is a action item it's a ballot for the board to vote on CSBA's delegate assembly for our region. And you can select up to 2 candidates, and there are 2 candidates on the ballot. One of them is Mrs. Lindsay, and the other's Wallace from Newman Crow's Landing. Anyway, this has to be submitted by March 15th. And so the board just needs to take that vote.
So if we make a motion, Mr. Raw, do we make the motion on both candidates? We have to do one at a time. Do you know what the,
I think we can make a motion for both. It's going to be universal throughout the county. No, they're running unopposed. So I'll make the motion to approve both of them.
okay, motion's been made by Mr. Raw, second by Mrs. Talcott. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Raw,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye. And just like that, Cindy, you've been auctioned off to CSBA for another 2 years. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you, board, for supporting me.
Keep up the great work. Thank you for representing our area. Okey doke. Let's go ahead with our 2021 budget calendar. Ms. Aguilar.
Yes, thank you. This is an annual item that has our key dates, meetings, and actions, as well as our deadlines and some key timelines in the budget calendar. And these are specific to the 21-22 budget year as we start the budget development process.
I have a quick follow-up on this one. I was kind of expecting to see more hard, fast dates. I mean, I assume this was like 2021, 22, but it seems like most of our hard dates really are just finalizing this year's budget. And then the rest of them are more, you know, kind of guidelines and it says we can change these later, right?
Oh, I see what you mean. Like the deadlines and key timelines are not specifically dated.
Right.
Yes.
So this, okay.
Um,
So nothing has changed in terms of the current, none of those dates are different from what we've seen before in the current budget year, right?
Correct, correct. Yes.
Okay.
I
So this is
did-
just setting up, that by every August 15th, we do this, and by every December 15th, we do that, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, any other questions by board members on this? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Talcott.
Second,
There it is. Second by Ms. Harvey. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey,
aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Raw,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, the next item is the approval of the Self AB 218 revived liability funding plan invoice. Ms. Aguilar, looks like you get this one.
Yes. So this is not a usual thing, contrary to the previous. This is what we hope to be a one-time invoice, but we don't know at this point in time. And I explained in the rationale, and the invoice is attached has also, I think, a very good informational content and just rationale from Self, which was our previous excess liability insurance or JPA that we were a part of. And really this invoice comes as new liabilities that are presented to the pool as a result of this new AB 218 law. And that law really opened a 3-year window for claims to be filed on previous potential claims from anyone that would file a claim against the district in relation to sexual assault. And so it represents a new window, a new opportunity for claimants, and it also expanded the different levels and types of things that would be included and would be covered by the claims. So as a result of that, as I mentioned, the pool has received claims. That window of time started January 1st of 2020. That was when the 3-year look back period began. And so it started then, but it's 3 years, so it'll go through December 31st of 2022. And so anytime in that period, these claims could be filed. And so as of this invoice represents what's been received through June 30th, and Self conducted a study for the cost of the claims that they've received to date, as well as costs in relation to the specific years they were for and the fiscal position of the JPA in each of those years. And so based on that, those factors, and an assessment has now been made, and that's what this invoice represents for anybody who was part of the Self pool during those times, according to the JPA bylaws. And let's see what else. I think that kind of summarizes it. The other point I want to make is that I know, Ms. Miyakawa, you had some questions that you sent me, and so I have some of additional information to help answer those questions. You were asking for what is our usual contribution for Self, or which is excess insurance. And so going back to what is able to go back at this point in time was 17-18. Just to give you an idea, we were at about 49,000 for our annual contribution to Self at that time, which gradually increased over the few years. Last year, the 2021 year, yes, was the first year we went away from Self. And if you recall, we are now part of SAFER, which is a different pool. For the 2021 year, Self was projected to go up to 140,000, which was a significant increase from the prior year, and which was closer to about 70,000. So it was quite a significant increase. But in 2021, we didn't have that increase. We moved to SAFER, and the premium for that was, or the contribution technically for that is 74,000. So that's for the current year. We would be awaiting what comes next year for that. But in talking to the SAFER, you know, we're still working on getting numbers for that for next year. So just to kind of give you an idea, I think you wanted to compare cost-wise what the contribution is.
Thank you.
Oh, you had some other questions. If you want me to address all of the questions. What I think some of it I answered, if it was a one-time adjustment, and so it's a one-time at this point, but since we have this 3-year window, there could potentially be additional invoices throughout these next, you know, years until that window closes and they've received all the claims.
Okay.
Analyze the impact to the JPA. They're hoping not, and they're hoping that they have, you know, covered what may be needed, but it's really unknown at this point in time. You asked
So
if
can I
this-
ask a piggyback on that one then? Because I'd forgotten, thank you for clarifying, I've forgotten that we'd switched to SAFER. So that makes sense as far as down the line. But since it's estimated, then they mentioned that they have refunded their members, you know, when there was a surplus, even though we're not with them any longer, and they can still come back and charge us, even though we've left. Will we still be eligible if they were to refund, if they overestimated and there is surplus? Would we, now that we're out of them, do you know if we'd be eligible to get any money back?
I could confirm that. I would, yeah, I'd have to confirm and ask them.
Yeah.
Do you
Okay.
mean specifically in relation to these claims or just in general?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it seems like if they can go back and charge us, you know, even though we're not with them anymore for years that we were with them, then certainly they can also refund that if, you know, because like you said, this is an estimated, you know, allotment that they're you know, charging everybody. And if they overestimate that and their surplus, are we going to ever see any of that money back? I guess would be my question.
Okay, so specifically for this, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, I can definitely check on that.
thank you.
And one of the other questions you asked if it would use about half of our deductible that we have set aside for insurance, and that would, because we have about 200,000, and this is 90. Exact amount here. I should 93,521.
Yeah.
And then you asked about having to dip into our deductible in the recent years, and just roughly looking at the last 5 years for just the property and liability side and the claims and some vandalism costs, which would, you know, fall into that general category. I mean, the last 5 years, we went anywhere from 7,000 to 29,000. It was smaller things.
Okay.
And then you asked me to check on what SELF might do if they found that maybe other districts had a pattern of negligence and maybe overusing the funds versus others, and if there would be a penalty. And, you know, it would depend on the circumstances. They said that, you know, that is something that the board could take action and take steps to do if they, you know, felt that that was necessary, but it would obviously depend on the circumstances. They did say that going forward, I mean, we're not part of that, but I think just generally in the industry, they can see this being more of a, you know, of an area in which they might look at doing that, and obviously have increased efforts to focus on to just do training, awareness, and all that with districts. So it would be a possibility. But
okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Raw.
So 2 questions. What if we vote no on this? What happens? And 2, over the past 5 years, how many claims has the Sylvan Union School District had in this arena regarding these issues? I don't remember any. I've been on 25. I can't ever remember a claim.
I can,
Well, before, in the last 25 years?
yes.
Okay, well, I'd be interested to hear that. But what if we vote no? Because I don't ever remember having a claim. And number two, but Mrs. Lindsay does. So I'd be anxious to hear remind me of what that one was. But two is what if we just say no? I mean, this is bothersome to me that an insurance company can go back in time. I mean, we left this insurance company for a reason because we found that their behavior was inappropriate, inexcusable. Their premiums were way out of line, and we left them because of their business practices. And now they're going to come back and haunt us and say, we're going to come back and try to collect additional premium on you for past years when we left them for that exact reason. I have no problem. So I would really like to know if I vote no, or if a majority of the board votes no on this. I don't know if they will or not. I don't know the operation of their minds, but what would happen to us if that happened?
But isn't this a different group that we're talking about? Aren't we talking about SAFER?
No, we're talking about
So,
the old group that we left. They're going for retro premiums. Retro premiums, not.
I understand that, but what she's presenting to us tonight wasn't that the new SAFER presentation, and then you led into this other, or am I misunderstanding?
No, this is for SELF, which we used to be a part of.
Right.
It's not necessarily a company, it's a JPA that we were a part of. We were members of this JPA.
Right.
And so this invoice is for if anybody was a member of the JPA during the times of the years that are specifically listed, then they would be receiving an invoice with their proportionate share. And so it's not based on if there's a claim specifically for your district. When you're part of a JPA, you're part of a pool, and so you're sharing in that risk.
Right, I understand.
And so that is the rationale behind it, and they've broken out how they have come to every member's proportionate share and rate for each of the years based on the number of claims and also based on the fiscal position of each of those years.
Is that legal to be able to go back on somebody after they've left and you're not even a part of it and you don't have any claims filed against you? Is that legal?
It's part of the bylaws of the organization or the JPA that we agreed to when we joined the JPA. And I know, as I think I mentioned, I forgot to mention this in my explanation, but all of the districts around us are also, whether it's, I can't say for sure whether it's all through SELF, but whatever pool that they were a part of during that time, districts around us, I asked in my CBO meeting, is everybody receiving these invoices and are they significant? And everybody across the board is shaking their head yes. So this is something that, and that's just in our county, I'm sure statewide, because this was a state law that was passed. So, yeah.
So we have no recourse to file a lawsuit against them as all the people that have dropped out of the JPA that are getting invoices, a group lawsuit to counteract this, because it really doesn't seem very ethical.
I mean, I would, if we wanted to go down that route, we would have to get legal counsel.
I can't speak for everybody else, but I would certainly like to hear legal counsel's opinion of this, because I think that it doesn't sound like, it sounds like to me that they're trying to get other districts that have been gone from their JPA to pay for current activity that's happening possibly in that with the people that are still members. And that doesn't seem very ethical.
The claims are specific to the years in which we were members during those years. or anybody who was a member during the year for which claims are being received. And that was part of this window. So you can file a claim now, but the claim is specific to something that is being alleged that it happened 10, 20, 30 years ago. And so that was part of the law. And that's what this 3-year window presents the opportunity for claimants to do.
Well, tonight you're going to get a no or a table from me. So in order for me to vote yes, one, I would need to know, one is, do we have to do this? Are we required by law to do this? And number two, I think that they should account to us where that money's going, what district is using it, and where it's going. I think that's not a disclosure that I don't feel that they can give to us. I do believe it's a disclosure they can give to us. I just don't like this. I mean, I've never been fans of SELP as it was. I was probably one of the big advocates to leave them because of their practices, and this just rubs me the wrong way. And so I'm not in a real hurry to write them a check, especially for $90,000. We used to, back in the day, we used to pay premiums under $25,000 to $40,000, $50,000, and then now a retro premium of $100,000. Essentially, this has it has stink all over it.
Sounds like to me they're padding and getting ready for something. They're trying to get money in their coffers to fight anything that might come down in the next 3 years. That's what it sounds like to me.
Not trying to make your job hard, Lizette. I apologize for this. I know, but I mean, it's a lot of money. It's a big ticket item, and it's right out of the general fund. This is unrestricted general fund money. And to me, it's like, we got to protect it if we can. If we're required to do it, that's one thing, but I don't know. I hear from other board members, but I think maybe you can see by calling a roll call vote or a motion in a second to see if you can get enough votes to do it.
I was trying to go through the bylaws to see if the attachment she put in there, what it said about that. I mean, the only thing I can think of, Lizette, correct me if I'm wrong, is, it's based on those 4 years. There's 4 specific years where claims were filed and there was a deficit because too many claims were filed that year, apparently. And so in order to make up the deficit there, that's where the charge is coming from. But, the negative I would see is, if something happened and there was a claim filed against us in one of those years and we opted not to pay, then we would be online for, damages or whatever. I don't know, maybe I'm not understanding it correctly, but.
Could we just table this and maybe get some of those answers from legal counsel and find out a little bit more what our responsibility is in that part of it?
If we table this, we lose the discount. That was their reason for bringing it, that we have to pay by March 7th and our next board meeting is March 9th. We lose the 3%. So that you'd have to be comfortable with that we would lose the $3,000. Yeah, $2,900 discount for paying no questions asked, George.
Out of 90,000, I think it's worth the risk personally.
Is anybody bothered by a discount? If we're a family, that's my whole issue with SELF.
Yeah.
If we're a family of funds just actually covering the cost of liability, how can they offer us a discount?
Right. It sounds very fishy to me.
It's
very fishy.
This has got stink all over it, folks. I mean,
the discount is representative of paying the full amount up front versus the option that's listed to pay it in 3 installments.
Right.
This really into 3 years. So first payment being due 3/7, second being invoiced in the 21-22 year and then 22-23 year. So if you don't approve it tonight, we would lose a discount and we would not be able to send the payment in time by the 3/7, even that first initial potential installment. And I believe there may be okay, invoices are delinquent after 60 days and subject to a 2%. So we would be within that 60-day. That's the other piece I just wanted to make sure. You know, even if it was late, if it came back to March 9th.
That's for people who put invoices on their desk and ignore them. But why don't you write them and tell them, you know, we need to see if your invoice is even legal, because we think it might not be legal at all. And so we need to determine whether it's even appropriate that you guys are doing this. I mean,
Lizette, has this happened before? No,
No.
obviously, is this unprecedented kind of thing?
Yes, I mean, it's from a new law that is unprecedented, opening up a whole new window of time where claims can be filed. And
So-
I don't know if you remember, we discussed, you know, back then when it happened, just informationally to the board, and school districts throughout were talking about the significant liability that this could pose. And, you know, I'm happy to take back and check with legal, everything that I've seen, just in terms of the referencing the bylaws, and then just in talking to, you know, every other district in our county, they're like, yes, we received it. Yes, we're paying it. So I just want to make sure that I share the information that I have, and inform you of that.
So George, would you feel comfortable pulling one of the, we approve it pending legal says that we are required by law to pay it, because we signed the bylaw, or when we signed on with them, we agreed to do this. Because we don't want to put this on Ms. Aguilar and do all this if this is something that's required of us.
okay, I mean, that's fine. I mean,
That's,
you know, these are public funds, but I know that if any one of you got in the mail an added premium for a 2017 homeowners policy, and they decided to add $200 to it, and they say, yeah, you need to, just in case, we need you to write us a $200 premium on that 2017 policy that we covered your house for in 2017. I mean, how many of you would be rushing to write a $200 check to your insurance company? I know that it would probably hit my trash can pretty quick.
I mean, I think, but we also got to look at the other costs involved. I mean, if we consult a lawyer, there's money there. If we delay it, there's money there. And then on top of all that, we still might have to pay it.
Yeah.
So and if we sign the bylaw and other districts are signing it, then, and it's a new law, so that's why this is here. I'm comfortable. I mean, I'm not thrilled about it, Mr. Raw. I feel the pain, but I don't think it's worth it from a financial standpoint, because it sounds like we're going to have to pay it anyways, because everyone else is paying it. And again, we're going to have to pay for the lawyer. We're going to have to pay
yeah,
for the
but
time.
has everyone else left Self? If they're still with Self, that makes sense, but we've left them. So that's where I see George's argument holding up. And my whole point is, okay, they can come back and charge us, even though we're not with them anymore. Can they come back and refund us when they decide they overcharge? That's a question I'd like to know. I mean, if you're going to charge us retroactively, then you're going to refund us retroactively too. So
Jennifer, could I maybe
Yes,
make
please.
can I bring it? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do, like you suggested, that we approve to make this payment after your questions and George's are answered, but break it into the 3-year breakdown, because we're only looking at you know, $3,000 plus 2%. I mean, so we're looking at maybe $5,000 over a 5-year period or a 3-year period that we can pay it off. I would rather not dip 90,000 out of our general fund this year, especially with the COVID year, and break it down into 3 payments. Even if that's our only recourse, because that would mean, only about 33,000 or 30,000 a year. And I don't think that would be too much of a burden on our budget. So,
Well, if we were breaking it down to 3 payments, then we could vote on this at the next meeting, right? Was that March 9th?
We could, if we were going to forego the discount, we could. Oh, sorry, you scared me. But there it goes. I was like, we lost power. No.
George?
Yeah,
Yeah.
on this one, I think that this is one where everyone needs to vote their conscience on. My idea in bringing this up was not to cause Lizette problems, not to cause Eric problems, not to persuade or strong arm any of my fellow board members. I've never liked SELF. I'm going to confess it in a public meeting. I felt that they mistreated the district over years. So I'm not a big fan of theirs. I'm glad that we as a district chose to leave them and go to another agency to be covered by insurance. And so it's a kind of a principle thing, and they're just adding more fuel to my argument that they're not a particularly honorable organization, and I don't really care for them. And so but I think each one of you should vote your own conscience. I think you know how I'm voting, but I am not in any way trying to persuade any of my fellow board members to get on my bandwagon. That's not my purpose tonight.
So
Well,
here's our
I'd
options.
like to make the motion then that we.
Hold on 1 second before you make it. I see us having 2 options. You can make the motion to table it till March 9th and our questions are answered, which would automatically put us on the trajectory of a 3-year plan, thus breaking up the payment so it's not all in this first year like Ms. Lindsay recommended, or we can pay it and get the discount like Ms. Harvey was saying. So those are the 2 options we have. I'm looking for a motion.
Wait, I'm so sorry, Jen. Can I just confirm what the discount would be? You said it was 3%?
It's 3%, which is $28.92.
So it's less than,
$3,000 approximately.
Yeah,
Okay.
just less than 3
is that per month or total?
total discount.
Total.
So it's not much of a discount, Christine.
Okay.
Not
No,
on
you're
that-
right.
not on
Sorry.
$90,000.
I heard it differently. I heard 30.
Oh, yeah, that would be
Big
worth
difference.
chomping. Yeah.
I'd like to
Okay,
make the
Mrs.
motion that we go with the first option, and that will give us time to get answers. And if at that time, when you come back, then we can, and we're told by the legal that we have to pay it, then I say then we move forward. And if not, then we see what our options are.
Okay, is that
Long
clear,
motion.
Ms. Aguilar,
Long
that motion, that really long motion?
That was a long motion.
We want
Okay,
the
so the
answers-
motion's been made to table this till March 9th, when we can get those questions answered. It'll be brought back at that time, and that would automatically put us on that trajectory for 3 payments. I'm looking for a second.
Or not paying it all.
Right, deciding what to do then. So it's a motion to table.
I'll motion to table.
You're seconding it, George? Mrs. Lindsay made it.
Oh, yeah, I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion's been made by Mrs. Lindsay, second by Mr. Raw. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey. Oh, she's muted. Board Member Harvey.
I'm so sorry. I'm thinking.
Oh, we can come back to you. We'll circle back.
Yeah.
Board Member Lindsay.
Aye.
Board Member Raw.
Aye.
Board Member Talcott.
Aye.
Board Member Harvey. Still thinking. Board President Miyakawa.
Aye.
I
Thank you.
You can be the lone no.
It's okay.
No, I agree. I think you guys brought up some really salient points, and I misheard the discount. So the discount only being $3,000, although we say only 3,000 still, but
But if it
yes.
saves us 93 in the end.
Right. Yes.
it'd be worth it.
Yes. So
So
thank
see what magic you can work. Get us out of it.
No promises, but we will definitely
And
consult.
we
with
will give you the
Nicole.
MVP trophy at the next board meeting. Oy.
Maybe our new GPA can give us some pointers.
All
I
right,
actually
very
did
good.
discuss this with our new JPA. He's out. They didn't have any other, insights into how to not pay this, but we
Oh,
will consult with
gosh.
legal.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, if you have any questions, you can get back to us, but we should have those few questions answered for next time.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to something brighter, shall we?
Happy.
How about re-employing our assistant superintendents? Let's start with assistant superintendent of HR.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second,
We don't want. Okay, without any intro.
nothing.
Sorry, Dee Dee, you get
Going
nothing.
forward.
Okay, so the motion has been made to accept the employment agreement. Hang on, let me get out my. The motion's been made by Mr. Raw, I believe, right? Seconded by Mrs. Lindsay. Roll call,
Yes.
please.
Board Member Harvey,
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Raw,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board Member Miyakawa.
Aye,
And I
the
just
motion
wanted to
carries.
remind you with the new law, you have to read out.
I got it. I'm
Okay.
ready. I read it after we all vote though, correct? Did I do that
It
right?
doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. All right. So per law, approving the employment agreement with Deolinda Peterson to serve as the district's Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources for the period commencing July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. The employment agreement states Mrs. Peterson is at step 6 on the certificated management salary schedule with a compensation of $155,364 yearly. Mrs. Peterson shall also receive an annual stipend of $2,305 for a master's degree. And with that, thank you for hanging in there and staying with us another year. We'll say something at the end when we do after we do all three. Let's go.
Do you want us to wait till you read that before we jump in and make a motion? Or do you care?
I don't know. I'm
We jumped real fast.
no, I thought I was supposed to read it after the vote, but Velma says it doesn't matter, so we'll just keep going. Okay.
Okay.
Let's go ahead with our next one. Approve the employment agreement for Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services,
So moved.
I'll make the motion.
AKA Laura Granger.
I'll make the motion to approve and to let the community know, even though Mrs. Miyakawa is reading this, we have the full contracts and we have prepared those and read those in advance. So it's not like this is a surprise. So we're voting with full knowledge of what's in the contract.
Oh, right. You mean because I'm reading this afterwards?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. So the motion was made by Mrs. Lindsay, seconded by Mr. Raw. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Raw,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye. And then per the law, approving the appointment agreement with Laura Granger to serve as the district's Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services for the period commencing July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. The employment agreement states Mrs. Granger is at step 5 on the certificated management salary schedule with a compensation of $151,724 yearly. Mrs. Granger shall also receive an annual stipend of $2,305 for a master's degree. Thank you, Laura Granger. We are just the luckiest of people to have you guys employed in this district. So thank you for sticking with us another year. We'll go on to approve employment agreement or Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, Lizette Aguilar. Oh, wait, Myra Lizette Aguilar. Is it Myra or Mira?
Make a motion to
It's
approve.
Myra.
Myra. Okay,
Myra,
motion's been made by Mr. Raw,
Second.
second by Ms. Harvey. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Raw,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye. Per law, approving the employment agreement with Myra Lizette Aguilar for the period commencing July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. The employment agreement states Mrs. Aguilar is at step 5 on the classified management salary schedule with a compensation of $151,727 yearly. Mrs. Aguilar shall also receive an annual stipend of $2,305 for a master's degree. And with that, I think we can all just give a, however you want, just a round of thanks and applause for the work you do. I just want to say just very briefly and however inadequately that as we look to replace bring a new superintendent in, and then COVID hit, it was with great confidence that we were able to bring someone in, knowing that this team and this solid foundation was in place to be able to transition and not skip a beat. And I think it's no secret to any of us here how many extra hours have been at play as you've built some things from ground up to maintain the educational excellence and the excellence in our facilities and staff. And just with our whole hearts, we're very grateful that you are a part of this district and that you lead with all your heart and with all your energy and enthusiasm and really make this district the great district it is. So thank you very much. And we're just thrilled that you're not going anywhere. You're sticking with us. All right, very good. We'll just finish up then with our consent agenda, looking to see if there's any questions by board members on any item that we can address at this time. Seeing none, looking to see if there's any items on here that you'd like to pull for a separate vote.
Just a question, Jen.
Yes, Mrs. Lindsay.
I just was looking at the school. Where is our normal facilities report that we normally have on, that we vote on? Is that not being put on anymore?
Yes, that's under safety, Mrs. Lindsay.
So it's been moved to consent?
Safety and facilities, it's up under information. It's always the last agendized item under information is safety and facilities.
But we don't vote on it anymore?
No, we don't vote on it. It's just, it's where Mrs. Aguilar gives us an opportunity to ask questions about facilities. And like today, she brought us up to date on UStack and we learned about the finalization of UStack.
I'm just going back to the years when you asked for it to be on the approval of the agenda, and we voted. It was the very last item every time. Yeah.
Mrs. Lindsay, you are correct in your memory. It was at the end, but that's back in the day when information and discussion items were at the end of agendas. Our first agenda item was consent, then we did action, then we did information. Mrs. Zeke restructured our agendas years ago and moved information discussion up to the top. And so facilities is the last item on information, but back years and years ago, it was the last item of the agenda because information discussion was at the end of agendas back in.
No, I'm talking about the construction motion that we always had. Is that been removed because we're done? Is that
Well,
what
we
I
have
guess?
checks. There's ratification of checks. But
Oh, no, what Mrs. Lindsay's referring to, I apologize, is the last item under action items used to be checks for facilities. Well, I don't think Mrs. Aguilar had any today.
Okay, that's all. It's just in my mind. And
Yeah,
it wasn't there, and I
Okay.
thought, where is it? So,
yeah.
okay, thank you.
all right, looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as it stands.
So moved.
Made by Ms. Harvey and seconded by Mrs. Talcott. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Ross,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. The last item on our agenda might look a little familiar. We just put this in here as a board report, and it's George's favorite. But actually, we just had one board member request to address us on the Legislative Action Week. And so that's where this will go here. So Ms. Harvey, if you'd like to jump in
Thank you.
here.
Thank you. CSBA is sponsoring a Legislative Action Week for board members, and I did it a couple years ago, and it was really informative. I got a chance to invite them to come visit some of our amazing school programs. And I think it was actually one of them came to visit Sylvan STEAM. So I'm encouraging some of my fellow board members to sign up, and then that way maybe we can parse it out and each of us can at least try to meet with one of them. They're obviously virtually and it's over a course of a week. So take a look at that and see if there's someone that you'd like to maybe sit on the meeting. And then also maybe we can, yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. Thank you so much.
What is the week again, Miss Harvey? Did you say the dates?
I will send that to you guys. I think
It'll come to the district. Velma will have it.
yeah, it
They
came
do it-
into
We do it every year.
it came into your inbox, but I will send it back. I'll send it out to you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. All
Jen,
right.
Can I make one quick comment?
Sure.
It's something I want to go back to from Mr. Erickson's presentation at the beginning. I would like, I don't know how many of the community members are still hanging in there with us, but
We
and
lost 30.
what we voted on earlier was for delegate assembly is what I've been serving on for many years, and I am representative of Region 8, which covers about 6 counties. But in going to these meetings and things that I go to, I want to just throw out a comment that Mr. Frederickson's made was the unity that has taken place in Stanislaus County and the surrounding counties around us, Region 8 particular, that how well we have functioned in getting moving forward on the reopening of our schools. I see districts all up and down the state where some schools have not returned any children whatsoever, and there is no future in sight. So I just want to thank Mr. Frederickson for serving on that superintendent's committee that he serves on. And I throw out to all our superintendents here in Stanislaus for the great work they've been doing during this pandemic. So just from a state perspective, I can tell you we should be very proud of Stanislaus County.
Very good. Thank you very much. All right, with that, then just a reminder that our next board meeting is in 2 weeks on March 9th. We'll have a special, a budget study session at that time. Remember, please get any questions you need answered ahead of time, as they'll be looking for initial direction on that and our board meeting to follow. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night, and